Hi friends, my name is Usman and in today's video training we are going to talk about Python conditions and if statements. Python supports the usual logical conditions from mathematics: equals A double equal B, not equals A exclamation mark equals B, less than A is less than B, less than or equal to A is less than equal B, greater than A greater than B, greater than or equal to A greater than equal to B. These conditions can be used in several ways, most commonly in if statements and loops. An if statement is written by using the if keyword. Let's look at our first example of the if statement. I'm using the PyCharm IDE for Python, and let's create a new file and save this file as conditions and loops. Okay, and save this file. Okay, let's declare a variable A, give it a value B 50, and declare a variable B and give value 100. And let's use the if statement to do a comparison between variable A and B. So let's say if we want to know that variable B contains value which is greater than the value contained in variable A, we use if B is greater than A, and we say B is greater than A. Now let's run the program and conditional loops. Okay, you see the program has printed B is greater than A. Python relies on indentation, that is white space at the start of the line. Most programming languages use curly braces, but in Python you need indentation. So let's say if I bring print back to remove the space and run the program, you see we have indentation error, expected an indented block. Let's add 4 spaces or tab 4, and let's run the program again, and you can see we have successfully executed the program again. So in Python, indentation is essential and very important. Now let's look at the elif keyword. The elif keyword is Python's way of saying if the previous conditions were not true, then try this one. The elif keyword is same as else if. So let's see this in action. Give the variable A value of 50 and same value 50 to variable B. So the first condition is if B is greater than A, B is greater than A will be printed. Now what if we want to try some other condition? So we use the elif keyword, elif A equals B, and we say print A is equal to B. Now let's run the program. You can see the elif condition worked out because A was equal to B. Now let's look at the else keyword. The else keyword catches anything which isn't caught by the preceding conditions. Okay, let's see the else in action. Give 200 to variable A, give 50 to variable B. So the first condition is if B is greater than A. Okay, the second one is A is greater than B. Let's have the last thing, print A is greater than B. Let's run the program. you can see the last statement has executed, which is the else block. Basically, else block will run if the first and the second or any preceding conditions fail. So the else part will run at the end. Now let's look at an example of a shorthand if condition. If you have only one statement to be executed, you can have that in the same line as the condition. So let's say B is greater than A, and let's have this and this. Now run the program. You see we have B is greater than A. So this is a shortcut, or you can say a shorthand version. Now let's look at shortcut if else statement. So let's say print A if A is greater than B, else print B is greater than A. Now let's run the program. You can see we have B is greater than A. So this is a shortcut way of using if else statements. Okay, let's switch B with A and run the program again. Now we have A because the first statement has executed, which is for if B is B is greater than A. This technique is known as ternary operators or conditional expressions. You can have multiple else statements on the same line. Let's look at an example. This is an example of having multiple else statements in the same line. Now let's run the program. See, we have equal because A and B variables have the same value. Now let's look at the AND keyword. The AND keyword is a logical operator and is used to combine conditional statements. Let's see AND operator in action. 50, let's have variable C, 100. If, let's say if A is B is greater than A and C is greater than A, then we say print both conditions are true. Let's run the program. You can see we have both conditions are true. Now let's change the value of C and make it 1 and run the program again. So we have nothing on the console because one of the statements returned false. Let's look at the OR keyword. The OR keyword is a logical operator and is used to combine conditional statements. Let's see OR operator in action. So we can change the current program and just replace AND with OR and run the program again. You can see we have both conditions are true. B is greater than A. Yes, B is 50, A is 20. C or C is greater than A. C is 1, A is 20. But the fact is, with the OR statement, if the first condition is true, the program is executed. So let's change the value of C to 100 and run the program again. You see we have the same output as before. So if the first condition is true, the program doesn't check whether the second statement is true or not true. Let's look at nested if. You can have if statements inside if statements. This is called nested if statements. Now let's look at nested if statements. Let's have a variable A and I say if A is greater than 10, print above 10 if a is greater than 20, print above 20, and also above 20, else print but not above 20. Let's remove these lines and run the program. You can see we have above 10, so as the value of a is 41, a is greater than 10, we got above 10, and a is also greater than 20, so we have and also above 20. So this is an example of nested if. Now let's look at the pass statement. If statements cannot be empty, but if you for some reason have an if statement with no content, put in the pass statement to avoid getting an error. Let's look at this in action. Let's have 50 b equal 100. If b is greater than a, pass. Let's run the program. Nothing happens. But if we don't give pass and we run the program, we will get an error, unexpected end of file. So we need some statement after the condition, but pass is used when we don't want to do anything if this condition is true. Okay, now let's look at Python loops. Python has two primitive loop commands. One is while loops and another one is for loops. The while loop, with the while loop we can execute a set of statements as long as a condition is true. Let's see an example of while loop in action. Declare a variable I, give it a value 1, and say while I is less than 6, and program and print the value of I, and also we do this I is equal to I plus 1. So this program will run as long as the value of I is less than 6. As soon as the value of I becomes greater than 6 or equal to 6, the program will end. So let's see this in action. You see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the console, and the program exited when the value of I became 6. Now let's look at the break statement. With the break statement, we can stop the loop even if the while condition is true. Okay, we can add the break statement within our current program. If I equals 3, break. Let's run the program. You see we have 1, 2, 3 on the console because the break statement broke the while loop when the value of I was 3. Let's look at the continue statement. With the continue statement, we can stop the current iteration and continue with the next. Okay, let's modify our program a bit and here. Okay, move the print to the end of the program here and change break with continue. Okay, keyword, and let's run the program. So you see we have let me change 0 to 0, run the program again. So you see we have 1, 2, 4 and 6. Basically what happened here is when the value of I was equal to 3, we used the continue statement which skipped this print statement, and it doesn't print 3 on the console, and it went back here and continued with the loop. With the else statement, we can run a block of code once when the condition no longer is true. Let's look at an example. I equals 1, I is less than 6, and print I, and I is equal to I plus 1, and here we add an else statement and we say I is no longer less than 6. Okay, now let's run the program, and you see we have 1 2 3 4, and as soon as the value of I became equal to 6, we got the else part which says I is no longer less than 6. So we can have else part with the while loop as well. Now let's look at Python for loops. A for loop is used for iterating over sequence that is either a list, a tuple, a dictionary, a set, or a string. This is less like the for keyword in other programming languages and works more like an iterator method as found in other object-oriented programming languages. With the for loop, we can execute a set of statements once for each item in a list, tuple, set, etc. Let's look at the for loop example, and let's create a list of fruits: apple, banana, and mango, and for x in fruits, and print x. Run the program. You see we have iterated through the list and printed the value one by one on the console using the for loop. Now let's look at looping through a string. Even strings are iterable objects. They contain a sequence of characters. Let's look at an example of iterating through the string characters, and for that let's create a string value. Okay, for x in, let's say, mango, and let's run the program. You see we have printed out character one by one which exists in the string mango. Now let's look at the break statement. With the break statement we can stop the loop before it has looped through all the items. Okay, let's see what break can do for us. Let's create a list: apple, banana, and mango. Okay, for x in fruits, print x. If x equals banana, break. We forgot to add the colon here. So what we are saying here, that if the value of x is banana, then break the loop. So the loop should stop after printing out apple and banana on the console. Let's see and run the program. Okay, as expected, you can see we have apple and banana on the console, and the program stop execution. We can also reorder this program a bit. So bring if x banana condition before the break, and the print after the break statement. So this should only print apple on the console. So let's run the program. You see we have printed only apple on the console because the break statement executed before the print statement. Let's look at the continue keyword that we also explored when we were working with the while loop. In this case, the banana shouldn't print on the screen. Now let's look at range function. To loop through a set of code a specified number of times, we can use the range function. The range function returns a sequence of numbers starting from 0 by default and increments by 1 by default and ends at a specified number. Now let's see range function in action. Let's clean up this, and let's say for x in range, and say 10, and print x. Now let's run the program. You see we have 1 2 3, starting from 0 we have numbers till 9. So the range function have automatically printed out values from 0 to 9. In range function you can also specify the starting point of the range numbers. So let's say 5 comma 10. Let's run the program. You see we have 5 6 7 8 9. So we can also mention the starting value in the range function. You can also mention else keyword in a for loop. The else keyword in a for loop specifies a block of code to be executed when the loop is finished. Let's modify our current program and add else, and let's say print the loop has finished, and let's run the program. So you see we have 5 6 7 8 9, and at the end we have the loop has finished string output on the console because of this else keyword. Next, we are looking at the concept of nested loops. A nested loop is a loop inside a loop. The inner loop will be executed one time for each iteration of the outer loop. Let's see the nested loops in action. Okay, let's create a list: vegetables and potato and tomato and beans, and let's create another list: fruits, apple, banana, and let's say mango. And let's create a nested loop. Let's create a basic loop first for x in vegetables colon, and this is the inner loop for y in fruits colon, and print x comma y. So we have created a very simple nested loop, a loop inside another loop. So let's run this program. You can see we have potato, apple, potato, banana, potato, mango, then we have tomato, apple. So basically what is happening here is the outer loop one iteration, and there is 3 iterations of the inner loop. So the statement print xy is basically a combination of an outer loop first value and 3 values of the inner loop. Last but not least, let's look at the pass statement. For loops cannot be empty, but if you for some reason have a for loop with no content, put in the pass statement to avoid getting an error. Let's see the pass keyword in action. So okay, let's have the vegetables, remove this, and let's type in pass, run the program. You see we have nothing on the console. So basically what you are saying is that I want to run the loop, but I don't want to do anything or run any statement. That's what the pass keyword does. Okay guys, in this lecture video training we have covered the if statement, the or and operators, some comparison operators, and we have covered the while loop, we have covered the for loop, and that's it for this video training. In the next video training we will be working with Python functions. So see you next time. Thanks, bye.